49ers 23, Cowboys 17, talking football, wildcard weekend, little recap we're doing with Bobby Skinner and myself. Bobby, we thought that this game would pack a punch in terms of being the most entertaining of the weekend. And you could say that penalties definitely did play an impact on how the entertainment value went, but it doesn't matter at the end of the game. We're still gasping, and as balls are in the air and as balls are being tipped in the air and they feel like they're in the air for 10 seconds, I'm still gasping and I'm still audibly saying something to myself as I'm watching it alone. So this game certainly did have the excitement factor. What are your thoughts stemming from this game? 49ers come away with the victory, and it came down to the final play.
The 49ers definitely deserve to win this game. They're the better team. But both teams just did so many dumb things to give it away.
Yeah.
And I love this 49ers team. I do. They were my surprise Super Bowl pick out of the NFC. I probably think Packers will make it? Yeah, but I didn't want to pick Packers Bills. So I was like, all right, I'll pick Bills over 49ers in the Super Bowl. I do believe in what this 49ers team is about. But they have a Jimmy G issue. They ran the ball 38 times compared to 25 dropbacks, and to only be able to scrape away by 6 points in this game, and Garoppolo, be able to, run the offense decently, but then at the end have that interception on the sideline. And then, missing Brandon Ayuk on that deep third and 9 late in the game. They have a Jimmy G problem. He's been good enough this year, and he has good stats, but it's just those 2, 3, 4 plays a game where it's man, if a different quarterback's in there, this is an easy 49ers victory. So I think 49ers fans should feel good about their team, but they got to be worried about Jimmy G at this point. And we know the 49ers drafted Trey Lance because they didn't have all the faith in the world in Garoppolo. But the Cowboys on the other end are the Cowboys every year, and I fall for it every year. They start out 7-1, 6-2 when Dak is healthy. And if Dak's an MVP candidate, and they just kind of get figured out and struggle against good teams. And that's what, this game, they were being dominated essentially the entire game. This was 23-7 going into the fourth quarter, and we're able to make it close, but that was more on 49ers mistakes than Cowboys, was just coming back and playing their own game.
Yeah, I want to stick with Jimmy G for a second, because this is my big takeaway from the game. And then I guess Cowboys, there's more of a bigger picture conversation have about Dak coaching, et cetera, penalties too. But with Jimmy G, I think Romo did a good job, and they brought in the next gen stats of talking about the in-breaking routes and how Shanahan's offense, and Jimmy G does do a good job of throwing those in-breaking routes. And if you're playing man coverage, then we're going to get one of those speedy wide receivers, Brandon Ayuk, throw Deebo Samuel in there, and then even George Kittle if they're going over the middle of the field. I mean, if you're playing man coverage, then they're going to run those crossing routes, so they're going to run those in-breaking routes over the middle of the field, and then those guys are going to get the yards after the catch, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you're playing zone, what Shanahan does a good job of is attacking those zones and attacking, the weak linebacker that you have, or if there's a linebacker that's bad in coverage, in-breaking routes, that can work there too. So Jimmy G does a good job throwing those, but there were 2 plays this game, and you talked about it, Bobby. The Ayuk third down in the third quarter where relatively clean pocket, and Jimmy G just flat out missed him. And then the interception, which it was just sailed over the head of the wide receiver. And those were 2 throws that were outside the numbers. That's what this 49ers needs, the offense needs, and that's what any quarterback needs to do when you're in the playoffs. It's not just making those simple throws. Tony Romo was talking about it with Dak Prescott about making the dangerous thrower, threading the ball through the needle. Everything is intensified in the playoffs. And if Jimmy G can't be hitting guys outside the numbers, 49ers ain't making it past the next round against the Packers. He's got to make those throws outside the numbers, and that needs to be an element of the San Francisco 49ers offense. And that's almost why they lost the game.
And the Packers they're going to be their toughest matchup, out of the other teams left in the playoffs, I think, because I think we all think the best team right now might be the Packers. You might think the Bucs, but probably their best team. And you're able to keep the Cowboys at 17 points. You win with 23 points. But against the Packers, you're going to need to score 28 points to win that game, and play your type of game. And it's just it's the same thing, even go back to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. It's those 1-2 plays that Jimmy G doesn't make, the slant over the middle, the deep ball, at the end of the game. And so, yeah, they have to be kind of worrying about that because, again, they played their game. They ran the ball 38 times. Deebo Samuel, 10 carries for 72 yards. Elijah Mitchell maybe didn't have the best, like total
efficiency
game.
day. Yeah.
But he had 96 carries or yards on 27 carries. Brandon Ayuk was used well in the receiving game. Now Kittle, the Cowboys did a good job of keeping Kittle outside the game. But yeah, it's but I also think the story is just as much as this Cowboys team kind of just being the same Cowboys team that we see every single year. I mean, at the halfway point of the year, the Cowboys were just a balling team, and I remember when we were previewing the Giants game in like week 5, 6, we had the Rams on the schedule, we had the Chiefs on the schedule, and I thought they were the most deadly offense we were going to face. And at that time they were. But
they averaged more than 400 yards of offense per game, and that was best in the NFL this year.
Yeah, and it's just like it's every year. It's the Cowboys. They beat up on those teams that are, average to below average. And when they play teams like the 49ers, they just aren't able to make those winning plays.
I don't even want to – I really do think that this Cowboys team this year was a really good football team. I said it on – we do a show Talking Giants, as, you can see behind us. But when we previewed them the second time, I said they're a top 5, top 3 team in the National Football League. They finished second in the National Football League in DVOA. And it was their defense that really carried them. And it was their defense this game that kept them in the game. We thought after that first drive, oh boy, this is over. 49ers are going to run a clinic. They're going to run a
Shanahan masterpiece.
That they were going to go off. But then it winds up being that was the only offensive touchdown that the 49ers scored in that game, not counting the turnover that the Cowboys had. And then the Deebo Samuel first play, the rushing touchdown that he had. The rest were just field goals. The defense kept them in this game. So, and I thought that was going to be the thing. If the Cowboys were going to go on a run, I thought the defense in the playoffs was going to be the thing that kind of carried them, and I always go back to the 2020 Buccaneers. The defense kind of carried them throughout that postseason, and it was Brady, the arm that kind of got them there, to just getting to the postseason in general. So you want to talk about Dak? Because I think there is a conversation to be had about the fourth quarter. He turned it on. The first quarter, the first
to
touchdown,
an extent, though, not even like
to an extent.
You got a touchdown off of a 28-yard drive. You get a field goal, and
the throw to Cooper was a really, really good throw. But, just again, we're talking about Dak Prescott, and we're saying that he's a really, really good quarterback, but just still not doing enough to be considered an elite guy, number one. And then number two, not even being enough to just get his team further enough in the playoffs to give this team a shot to compete for that Super Bowl.
I mean, it's the first round of the playoffs. They're playing the 7, and I get the 49ers aren't your average 7 seed.
No.
But you're playing the 7 seed at home. You have this high-powered offense, and you put up 17 points at the end of the game. In a game where the 49ers gave you some chances to come back in it. Now they got killed by penalties too, which I think does speak to Mike McCarthy. You don't lead the league in penalties on accident. And then the playoffs come around and you have 14 penalties. And they were small ones too. They weren't like some, big face mask or roughing the passer. Like 14 penalties for 89 yards they accumulated.
Yeah, and the series of events, I was telling you, we were talking about this for the show, the series of events after the fake punt, which was a great call. I mean, you're punting. It's like, why are they punting on a 4th and short? But I guess everybody predicted that a fake punt was coming, but they ran it beautifully, executed it great. This game came down to the final play, and that fake punt that they ran early in the fourth quarter. Why are you keeping your punt team out there on a 1st and 10 after you successfully convert a fake punt on a 4th down? You wasted 80 seconds. If the clock was ticking and the clock was rolling on that punt, you wasted basically over a minute of precious time that you needed once that game was over. And on that final drive, you needed every single second to hold the punt team out there on a 1st and 10 and then run the offense out there. And then on top of that, get a delay of game penalty and you don't even run a play. I know the officials got to move and blah, blah, blah. But still, I mean, that is just coaching. Like, why? What is the benefit of trying to run that and trying to do that? You wasted all that time that you needed by the end of the game.
And you mentioned they got the false start on it, which just like when you explain that sequence, it just makes no sense. Keeping the punt team out there, and then on So that drive ended with a 4th and 7 field goal at the 49ers 33. So if you don't get that delay of the game, now everything's not equal, but you have a 4th and 2 at the San Francisco 28. Then you think about going for it on 4th down and being and essentially winning the game, getting, and then you get down to field goal range towards the end of the game. And then even at the end of the game, I don't know if this was Kellen Moore or Mike McCarthy's call, it's probably collaborative, but that QB sneak.
Yeah.
It's like, why take that chance? And even if they give the ball to the referee, it's no guarantee you're going to get the ball snapped off for a spike. Like maybe you get it off and you're able to run that Hail Mary play, but that's like a scramble, Joe, from the get-go right there. It just seems like when you include the penalties, that dumb, thing with the punt, the end of the game, it's just like, it seems like Mike McCarthy is like, he's kind of who we thought he was.
Yeah. I feel like the Cowboys right now they had a playoff problem before Mike McCarthy got here, but I really do feel like the Cowboys right now, they're stuck in why Mike McCarthy got fired in Green Bay, where it's just this playoff purgatory where they're good. They have good teams every single year and they can't do anything with it. And really, I don't
think that's a Dak thing or just like,
I think it's a combo. I think it's a combo of a lot of different things, but I don't know how open is the Cowboys window going to be and for how much longer? Because I thought this was the year if they were going to do anything, because Dan Quinn going to leave and possibly get a head coaching job? Is Kellen Moore going to leave and possibly get a head coaching job? I mean, those guys are also vital parts of your success as well. And if any of those guys leave, I mean, this was your window. In my opinion, this was their window.
Jerry firing McCarthy and making Kellen Moore the head coach.
Promoting Kellen Moore. That would be wild, but you're going to lose one of them. You're going to lose eventually Dan Quinn, or you're eventually going to lose Kellen Moore.
It's but even Kellen Moore's offense, when they're balling in the start of the season, it's kind of it's like a beautiful thing because they're not doing anything special. It's like they're blocking really well. They're able to run the ball. They're able to get outside the tackles, and they're able to turn that into like play action crosses over the middle and Dalton Schultz, and then you have all these wide receivers. It's like they've kind of have and Dak's a good QB, like we're talking about Dak and as a Dak issue in the playoffs, but Dak is a good quarterback, and it's like you have all these things going for you. It's like almost like, do you try something totally new instead of running the same things that you guys have been running for 5 years that have led to a lot of regular season success? But you look at Dak's splits versus winning teams and losing teams, and those don't look good year over year. So I just don't know what the Cowboys do. Like, you fire Mike McCarthy and then what? Again, you just promote from within. Does that help? Like if it helps if you're worried about losing Kellen Moore, but if you're just doing it to, like the Giants did with, Tom Coughlin and Ben McAdoo in 2016, then it's like, well, what? That doesn't really help anything.
You give Harbaugh a call.
Honestly.
Throw the bag at him.
Wouldn't that be a good, like maybe the best thing for them? Like really get that running game going from good to just top of the freaking league and letting Dak do his thing and making it simpler for him. But I don't know what they do at this point. Because they have a Super Bowl roster.
Yeah.
They have a Super Bowl roster, and they have had one for a long time, and they just can't get over the hump in the playoffs.
All right, I want to cap it off with 49ers Packers. So that matchup is kind of set in stone. They're going to be going to Lambeau. Said Lambeau weird. 49ers have owned the Packers in the past? ? At least that's my brain.
Well, even this year when the 49ers weren't like a top team, they lost to the Packers by 2 points. I think it was like a 28-26 game, and then you look at now this isn't the same 2019 49ers team, but they dominated them like in the regular season and the postseason, like dominated them. Yeah. So I'm really interested to see how this Packers this Packers team handles like this 49ers run game. Because they've got the DBs, like they lost 30-28 in week 3 to the Packers.
Yeah. I'm more curious to see how the Packers run game can get going. And usually I'm not a guy that talks about the running game a lot, but I think everything is just heightened and everything is intensified in the playoffs. And this 49ers secondary, they played pretty physical today. And these are very talented wide receivers that the Cowboys had. They did not have a lot of separation unless it was a broken coverage. They were flying around the football field. Fred Warner and Nick Bosa huge injuries to monitor as the week goes on. Because I think if those two
concussion, and
if those
Fred
two
Warner
play,
came back out on the sideline and was jumping around,
yeah,
but
he
he
was
didn't come back
jumping
into
up
the
and
game.
down. So if those two play, I think the 49ers have a good shot. If they don't play, I don't think they have a shot. And I think the Packers win.
It's your two best defensive players. Bosa is a game record. Fred Warner does so many things that you don't really notice in coverage. So yeah, they flat out can't afford that. And even then it's an uphill battle versus Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Packers is probably the safe bet. The 49ers were my surprise Super Bowl team. So I'm probably just gonna pick them to stick with that. But yeah. So 49ers fan, how are you like pumped? We just won in the first round. Or like what is your mindset as a 49ers fan right now?
I'm concerned about Jimmy G, but I think I'm just glad to make it out.
Yeah.
Glad to make it out.
I mean, if you don't get the Jimmy G mistake, this looks like a 23-13, a 23-10 game, and that looks a lot better than 23-17.
Cowboys similar. It's kind of both offenses. Both offenses really only put together one good scoring drive.
49ers too. They had the first drive of the game and then the Samuel touchdown at the end.
No, but that was off a turnover. That was one play.
That's true. Yeah, off the Dak interception. All right, you got anything else?
No. Let's rock and roll. One more game, a Super Wild Card weekend.
Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next one.